Connor, how old are you now? Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, wow. Yeah, thank you, dude. I haven't thought, dude, I didn't think much about my birthday before, leading up to, or after. It feels like a
Crazy timing.
yeah. No, I turned 31 on Friday. I had dinner with Sean, Ridge CEO. So like
Wow, crazy.
not too much different. Well, you know what's funny is our buddy, we started an agency together years ago with another guy, John. And John was in town, so we were all planning on getting together. And I'm like, yeah, guys, we should get dinner Friday. This was like early last week. And then I was leading up to it, and I was going to tell my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm going out with the boys. And then I was like, oh man, Friday's my birthday. I'd accidentally made birthday plans. So had to like pivot plans, get more people included, things like that. But yeah, ended up being great. And more than anything, this was November 22nd. So Friday last week. This will come out in a couple of weeks. Sales for everybody just seemed to start ripping Thursday, the day before. So Thursday and my birthday, Friday, were great sales days. Everybody was like, I hope you had a great birthday. I'm like, look, sales are up. I'm having an incredible birthday. So everything that could go well did, I would say.
Where'd you go for dinner? I know you're in LA.
We went to a place in Santa Monica called the Golden Bull, which is in like kind of the most northern point in Santa Monica. It's almost the Palisades. And one of the pieces of lore that I like about the Golden Bull is it's where they went to dinner before creating CAA. So Michael Ovitz started Creative Artist Agency. I think that's what CAA stands for. And they like schemed that up. They were leaving their previous agency. They did that at Golden Bull. I think that's really cool lore. So that's become a tradition when going out with John and Sean.
What is Creative Artist Agency? What's the deal with that?
They're one of the biggest talent agencies.
Oh, got it. Okay. Got it. So just connecting with like creators of all types.
Yeah. I think
they're like what like Ari Gold works at in Entourage.
Yes, exactly.
They're they rep like every athlete. And
yeah, Ari Gold is kind of he's based on Ari Emanuel. Emanuel used to work for Michael Ovitz at one point. So anyway, yeah, there are ties. What Ari Gold does is more or less CAA.
Interesting. So your birthday gets somewhat, I would imagine, like dwarfed with the time of year with work. But if you guys have a good Black Friday, then you get to celebrate and like be doubly good vibes with the good sales and the birthday.
Yeah, totally. And usually it's much closer. Not this year though. But yeah, overall solid day.
I feel like I don't know about you guys. I'm feeling that like Christmas Eve, 10-year-old Christmas Eve feeling with Thanksgiving being 2 days from now. We've been going back and forth about some projections, and I'm excited. It's like it's a little more uncertain. At least when you're 10 on Christmas Eve, you got a bunch of cool presents coming the next day on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. You're like, I hope I hit projections. I think we're going to, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I think that's a good metaphor. If you were 10 on Christmas Eve, but you weren't sure there were going to be presents.
You don't know if you're getting presents or coal.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the truck?
But this will come out in a couple weeks, so we could just all channel. We're gonna have awesome Black Fridays, awesome Cyber Mondays, and we'll be just cruising through mid-December when this episode comes out.
It'll be great. So when I took over as head of growth at HexClad, one of our biggest priorities in 2023 was to grow our revenue, our top line revenue, by scaling paid social, specifically through more creative testing. Everyone knows that as you spend more on Facebook ads, using the same creative, the same landing pages, the same offers, your efficiency gets worse. That is a nature of scaling paid media. As you spend more, you reach more people. As you reach more people, quality of traffic degrades. One way to offset this is by enhancing the amount of creative that you're testing. And like I said, that was a huge strategy of ours in 2023. It continues to be this year. And it's ultimately what let us spend over 50% more year over year while maintaining our one-day click ROAS. We probably 2, 3, maybe even 4x our creative output in 2023. And that allowed us to scale our Facebook account efficiently. Now, motion allowed us to understand out of that enhanced creative output what was actually working the best. Shots on net is great, but in order to do it effectively, you still need to understand which of those shots on net are doing the best so you can scale it up effectively. In motion, let us understand what it was working exactly while 4xing our creative output, and ultimately allowed us to scale our Facebook account very efficiently in 2023 compared to 2022. So if you're in the process of setting up your creative flywheel and you're about to really enhance the amount of creative testing that you're putting into your ad account, then you also need a tool like Motion to understand which of those creative tests are working and which ones you should be spending more on and less on and doing more of and less of. So if that's you and that's the stage that your brand is at, then you need to be booking a demo today or creating a free account at motionapp.com. Motion offers a monthly subscription plan so you can dodge those annoying annual contracts. And if you mention the Marketing Operators podcast to Motion sales team, you can get 50% off your first month. Well, today we got some fun topics, some hot button topics. I think Cody's got probably the most sought after data set in all of e-commerce right now, the data point that everyone's interested in. So we're going to talk about the hottest new ad channel, AppLovin, a little bit, and kind of what each of our experience has been advertising there. I think we are all officially live there now. I think HexGuy was the last one to the party. And then we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about some new partnership creative campaigns that Ridge has got going on and kind of dissect that a little bit. So got a fun one today. Thank you to the sponsors, Motion, Rich Panel, and Prescient. Let's get into it. Yeah, AppLovin. So we're all officially live. Cody, when I say Cody has the most sought after data set in e-commerce right now on the hottest channel in e-commerce, I'm saying that because Cody ran a holdout test. I think a lot of us have been running it and kind of using the MTA to validate and sort of compare what we're seeing in AppLovin with some of our other top channels. Cody actually concluded the holdout test, I believe. So Cody, I want to kick it over to you and just like let us know, A, like what was the test, and B, what are you seeing? And C, is it aligned with what you're seeing in MTA?
Yeah, great question. Before I share, just a question for you guys. Do you guys ever get in trouble for stuff you say on the internet, either on the podcast or Twitter or anything like that? Because I do all the time, and I'm probably about to right now.
I typically get praise and glory, things like that.
I was gonna say it seems to be more positive feedback, but every once in a while, I'll say something, and Jason or Danny will be like, "Hey, you shouldn't say that about our business."
Dude,
Like,
I'll say something that I think is like totally innocent or like a joke, and I'll get like one of our like channel reps. They'll call me and be like, "Hey, leadership was asking about this. Like, what's going on with that?" I'm like, "It's a joke. Like, it didn't mean anything." But I don't know. In my mind, like, no one listens to me or follows me, so I'm always putting my foot in my mouth.
I got to know from some channel reps as well. I said, it was very much like an offhand comment. It was on one of Aaron Orndorff's live events, made some comment about a certain ad platform's reps during the holidays. And our media buyers who like interface with them all the time, they were like, dude, they were kind of bummed you said that. And I was but it comes with the territory.
I'm sure Sean must get it.
Sean's
all the
for
time.
sure gotten it. Yeah.
And like, I always feel bad, but like, I'm also like, besides our sponsors, I love you all. I'm not paid for it by anybody. You know what I mean? I'm a free man. So I'm going to share the good, the bad, and the ugly with any channel.
Something that might be a SaaS rep problem. Maybe it's not a marketing operator's problem. It's a SaaS rep's problem. I'm seeing the pattern here.
I was going to, I just to talk about AppLovin quickly. I want to hear about the test, but could we maybe tee up for people not chronically on direct to consumer Twitter, like just the state of it? Because also, Cody, you were kind of patient zero. I mean, we brought up AppLovin at least a month ago or something. It was a while back, and then it really reached like a frenzy over the last 6 or 7 days.
Yeah. So AppLovin, first off, if you want an awesome background on AppLovin, the My First Million with one of the founders of AppLovin's awesome. I think, Connor, you actually told me about that, and then I listened to it a month or so ago, and that's an awesome, like, you want to talk about a good episode that like gets behind like the day-to-day operations of how a billion-dollar company came to be. It's really cool. But yeah, AppLovin is a company that originally, I believe, started in developing games, right? Like developing iPhone games, Android games. Do they do both, or is it mainly iOS?
I'm sure they do both.
They do both. So that was their initial, I forget exactly like what their unique angle was there, but they had some sort of insight into like these games that were working really well, and they're developing games, and all of a sudden they realized with all the users that all of these iOS and Android gaming applications have, there's a pretty big opportunity to develop an ad network on top of it. And that is what's happening right now. I think they rolled that out. I don't know did they roll out the ad network recently, or is it just more accessible as of late? Like I wasn't sure.
It was available to like app events, but wasn't available to e-commerce events.
Right.
Until pretty recently.
Got it. Okay. So now recently a bunch of e-commerce brands are hopping in there and starting to advertise there. It is very early days. It's all managed service. You just tell them the budget, you give them the creative, and they launch it for you. And yeah, now everyone's kind of in the early days of trying to validate the channel, and a lot of the data points look really promising. Like, really incredible MTA based return on ad spend numbers. I think varying spectrums of net new visit rate. And I'll tell you what, I'm hearing stories today. It was the largest I heard of brands spending 6 figures a day on AppLovin. So seems to me like a lot of brands are finding a lot of scale out of it. But yeah, it's still very early days.
And what surprised me a little bit about like the conversation so far is it's like spanned a whole spectrum of like people incredibly skeptical about how it is like a scam, or like how like the promotion of it is nefarious in some way, to other people being like, this is going to rival meta ads. Like they're like, this is like the saving grace for ecom. So we're really, as I think as a community, trying to navigate what feels like a really wide spectrum.
Where do you guys stand on the spectrum? One being you're extremely skeptical. You think it's fraud or just won't work. And 10 being like, this is like, the second coming. Where do you guys stand currently?
The second coming. 10. No, I'm not a 10 yet. We're not spending 100K a day. If we can get there, then maybe. But I'd say I'm 5. We launched this literally on Friday. And yeah, we can get into like what we're seeing in our data. But I'd say I'm 5 out of 5 based on the initial data. But the other 5 is, I'm like bullish. The 5 that's bullish is based on the initial data. But the 5 that's not is like, oh, we're not going to show you any of the networks that we're serving ads on. Oh, you don't have like any control over what we're doing, which seems a little sketchy to me. So we'll see. I'm 5 out of 5. What about you, Connor?
I think 5's really conservative on that scale, because there is no scenario where it's like a 1 or like a 2 even. Like it is objectively working.
Unless you found out it was like bot traffic that was somehow buying or whatever.
But and I saw unlikely. I saw people like entertaining that idea. And I think we could really rule that out, that there are undoubtedly people clicking through and purchasing at a very high rate. And then, so I don't think, I'm highly skeptical of the idea that it is some like super scalable, like meta comparable channel. What I think is also true, because we've been through this a bunch of times, being really relatively early, particularly from an ecom brand perspective to new channels, is one, I think it's a high value audience. We know it skews a bit older. We know it skews more female. And we know it is high quality ad space. Like it is full screen vertical video. If you have a product, offer, and content that works, if you just show that to new people, and new people who haven't really been seeing direct to consumer ads in this network, they've typically just been seeing like other Candy Crush knockoffs and things, like that will work initially. So like I actually have very little skepticism, and I think a lot of the house tests validate that to some degree, that these are like real impactful results early on. Everything I just described, though, aren't the attributes of a network that you're going to be able to spend 100K on forever. Their network would need to be growing a lot, and I think it'll need to get more sophisticated over time. So jury is still out, in my opinion, on the scalability of it. So given those two things, I'd give it like a 7. I'll also say we've been on a lot of new ad networks, and we're going to spend like 70K a day over the next couple of days. So we're ripping over there. And I've never spent 70K on another ad platform. Like we've never gotten Reddit or Twitter or Snap, which I'd all put in the bucket of like initial results really good. We've never gotten to 70K a day. So in that case, yeah, I think 7, 8, something like that. I think it'll be a really meaningful kind of peripheral channel in D2C brands marketing mixes.
Real quick, you called something out, Connor, that I think is interesting, of like the low hanging fruit component. These people generally have not been getting e-commerce ads, so there's just a bunch of people there, like the same way that you often see a massive pump through Canada if you've been building a brand in the US for like multiple years? Like, is there just low hanging fruit ready to convert? They're prime. They've, it's as you spend more, as there's more advertisers, the more you have to pay to get a CPA. Like that's, most people are aware of that. If you're a media buyer, that's how Facebook ads work. Are we just in like the glory days of this channel, and a year from now, the low hanging fruit's going to be all swept up and CPAs are going to go up and ROAS will come down? Who knows?
Right. Yeah, and then does it become a channel that you can spend 10 to 20K a day if you're a really big brand? Like that seems highly likely, which is great for everyone and super bullish for AppLovin. I don't think it becomes I don't know if it becomes like a true meta alternative. But again, we're just discussing the spectrum of opinions that have been kind of thrown around over the last couple of days. Cody, you can tell us where you land, or if you want to talk about the test first, maybe how that informs your opinion, you could do that.
I think one thing I'll say before the test, but yeah, I think people are gonna be super pissed because we're just like teasing the test and then not getting it till like 40 minutes in. Yeah, the reaction that I thought was the funniest, and I think is just really interesting, like psychology, is like everybody thinks that people are shilling this and getting paid. And usually like when you see people start talking about something on DTC Twitter, they're getting paid. I'm just saying it. Like you'll see a new app come up out of nowhere and this new SaaS, and like everybody's getting paid and they're not disclosing. And so I think that's what's happening. I think that's what's usually happening. That is, for the best of my knowledge, that's not what's happening here. It's like that meme for what's that movie where the guy's like, you guys are getting paid, and like that like drug movie where he's got like the family.
Yeah. Oh, I know the reference. Wait, you guys are getting paid? Yeah,
right. I don't remember it, but that's almost maybe what it feels like here. But I think there's some credit. What's that?
Is that We Are the Millers?
Yeah, that one. Good classic movie. So outside of that, I think there's two things. I think people like being influencers, and it's kind of, funny, but I think people like to say that they're early to something. And I think that's just kind of normal psychology. So, it can definitely be annoying. But I just think that's like a natural human thing. And then I think number two, and this is more important, I think it just shows how starved for a second major acquisition channel we are. I think TikTok had promise a few years ago. I think that was more of a CPM arbitrage, and I don't think the scale was there. And I think the timing worked really well where the user base was growing pretty rapidly. So there was available inventory, but the costs were pretty cheap. I think now the user base is not growing. The CPMs are higher, and they've pivoted to shops. I think shops is working for some brands, but you have to go fully into that. I have concerns about that being short-lived. And so besides YouTube for some brands, TV, like there's not really a rival to Meta. And we'll talk about TV after this with Connor, but like TV you can spend on. I don't think you can spend Meta amounts. You're not going to spend $70,000 a day, but you can get it to work and scale. But it's so much harder on a creative and measurement standpoint. I think the reasons why AppLovin is so attractive, first of all, it's very low lift. There's a lot of scale, like we talked about, last week, where Connor was like, I'm not interested in any channels that you can spend $2,000 a day. There are brands spending six figures a day. There's brands spending, 50K plus, like pretty easily. And so I think that's super attractive for the right brand. I saw data from Jeremiah from Noah's shared some really interesting stuff. It is a more mature customer base. So it probably skews, older compared to any of the other channels. So for some brands that's actually a great thing. For us, it probably is. You can use your existing creative, like Connor said, you get, full ad unit that captures attention. So I think there are a lot of reasons to be really bullish about it. I also don't think it's a CPM arbitrage thing. I don't know about you guys. We have a $44 CPM. That's 30% higher than Meta, at least. Yeah. So I don't think that's a CPM arbitrage thing. There might be some of that, a lot of shitty click-throughs where it's going to work a lot better, and then people are going to get, numb to it, and it won't work as well. But I don't think it's like a CPM thing. What I don't know anything about ad tech. I don't know what walled garden means. I still have no idea. So like, I don't know if they have any proprietary, where I've seen some stuff where like people are like, well, they own the demand side and the supply side. I have no idea what that means. So I have no idea if that does anything for them. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on some of that?
To connect 2 points you just made, everyone starved for a second channel. I also am biased and am so down to spend more money on short form vertical video. Like I talk about that all the time, but the fact that we can invest more of our time into short form vertical video, and that will work across placements on Meta and YouTube Shorts and Snap and TikTok and now AppLovin. It's like, I would like all advertisers to align around a format so we could just hone in like certain types of creative and then spend on them everywhere. I think it would be fantastic. And it's one reason why AppLovin's like, there's been such a meteoric rise is because startup costs are zero. It's like, that's how it was described to me. Hey, just take your best performers from Meta, put them on AppLovin. It works pretty well. So it's incredible. So anyway, I just highlighting both those points, I think are super key to its success.
Yeah, you're definitely in a better place if you have a flywheel to produce short form video. I mean, you're definitely ahead of the curve on AppLovin if that's the case. Cody, we're seeing the same thing. CPMs are not higher than Facebook. They're a little lower, but about the same. The click-through rate is what's like insanely high. Our cost per click, because of how high our click-through rate is, like, I mean, shit, our click-through rate probably triple what it is in AppLovin compared to what it is in Facebook, which is like actually over triple. I'm looking right now since we launched, which is insane. So it seems to be a very engaged audience. Again, maybe that's just because these consumers aren't used to seeing e-commerce ads, and they're like, wow, this is different than that shitty knockoff app that I'm seeing. Like, if you put a video of like Gordon Ramsay endorsing a pan right after an ad pushing to like some kind of cheap looking app, like that's gonna feel really legitimate. And I don't know, maybe there's something to be said about that. Who knows?
Yeah, one point that I would make there is like, I think I just said it's short form vertical video, which like equates it to other channels. There are differences, right? Like AppLovin isn't immediately skippable, so you guarantee more watch time. You're getting more seconds watched, and that makes a really big impact, right? So if you look, I haven't looked at this, but like in theory, you can have a much higher CPM from AppLovin, and you can have a lower cost per 3-second view because you're just retaining that many more people. So that's really like, that's a big difference. Like, somebody can immediately skip through an Instagram reel, but they've got to watch a couple seconds of AppLovin. And like, obviously that should come with some sort of CPM premium because they're not equivalent.
Yeah, that's true. What about, Cody, you said something that I'm curious about. What is the size of AppLovin's user base? And like, do you guys know what any of their like growth numbers, their user growth numbers are?
I know they're public, so it's probably available. I know the number I've heard is 140,000 apps on their network. I don't know user base, and that would be definitely something to look into. I think one other point of why it's taking off, it's click based. Imagine if all of the same attributes we said, but like it was more of a YouTube kind of feel, right, where like people search for it later. Like I think that was a challenge with TikTok. TikTok was probably mid funnel, but it probably drove more discovery value than Meta in terms of views. So it was harder to quantify and see the value. And I think especially for most brands that are 7 and 8 figures that don't have access to something like a house, it's going to be hard to justify that if you don't see it in some type of direct click attribution. And I think that is another reason where it's not always perfectly accurate, especially at our scales, but people are able to see the value in their tools and dashboards of choice, which I think really helps to give them confidence to spend there.
So that's interesting. So do they not, if you are playing Candy Crush and you see an AppLovin ad and you just let it play through and then you keep playing Candy Crush and then you go buy a Ridge wallet within 24 hours, is that not attributing? Because I actually when you said that, I just went and bounced from our clicks only to clicks and views, and our one day was the same. So
I don't know about Northbeam. I primarily just look at clicks, but in AppLovin, my understanding, the only attribution setting is a 7-day click.
Got it. Yeah, I've yet to be like actually inside.
But I mean, even I guess I'm more talking about like the user behavior is like, I don't think that this is a channel where it drives a ton of discovery and then people search for it later. I feel like a lot of the value, it seems like, are showing up in clicks. It seems, and Jeremiah has shared some data, and I'll get into our test eventually, I promise, that it seems to be less of a discovery channel and more of a last touch channel.
Yeah.
Jeremiah shared just some of the data that they have from No, that, they're not seeing it show up that much on discovery, even though spend is going up across, their data set. You're not getting that much like, here's where I first heard about you. But especially I think when there's some like click-based UTMs attached, like what brought you to our site today question, a lot of people are saying, they're not saying AppLovin, they're saying some type of mobile gaming app. And so it doesn't, that would obviously have a higher proportion of clicks if it's like a lower funnel channel. We've been talking about upper funnel channels a lot, especially leading up into, peak moments. And honestly, it's been one of the biggest unlocks for us as a business is, helping us reach net new customers and getting them into our funnel. But the challenge is historically, this stuff is very difficult to measure. You're not going to see it, in platform ROAS clicks. So one of our secret weapons this year has been Prescient AI. We onboarded with them about midway through the year, and it's been a game changer in helping us to measure some of these very difficult to measure upper funnel channels like TV, like linear TV, like streaming. They've been able to move really quickly. The team's been great and actually get betas up with new channels that we've been testing. So it's been great. We've been loving it. We're able to see and forecast if we were able to scale and spend on some of these channels, what our incrementality would look like. Prescient has become a really important part of our marketing workflow. It's one of the main tools that we use to set our budgets every month. And yeah, it's just become a really important, part of our stack that we feel like we can't live without at this point. We love the unbiased cross-channel measurement it has. Also love the halo effects where we're able to actually see how it's impacting. We're just on D2C, but I know brands that are on Amazon, they're able to get halo effects to actually see how their upper funnel spend and their D2C spend is impacting Amazon. So it's just become a really big part of our workflow, and I can't recommend it enough. We're using it. Hexclad is using it. Symbiotica, Coterie, and dozens more. Prescient's blowing up from everyone I talk to. Can't say enough good things about it. If you want to try it to measure some of these upper funnel channels that we're talking about, go to prescientai.com/operators to book a demo.
So I think that's a good transition into another important data point topic within AppLovin is how top of funnel is it? There's been a lot of conversation about net new visit rate and net new customer order rate. What are you guys seeing for net new visit? Is this top of funnel? Is it driving first time web visits, or is it more remarketing to people that have already visited your site, or a pretty mixed bag? What are you seeing, Connor?
Let me finally share the test results.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you go.
That'll be a good way to answer that one. Good way to tee it up. And then definitely want to hear what you guys are seeing in Northbeam. So ran a test November 11th to 22nd. So about 2 weeks. We were probably spending 10K a day on average. We actually bumped it. You can't spend less than your original plan for a house test, as you guys know, but you can spend more. So we did bump it. And, for the majority of it in platform, in Northbeam looked really good. The one call out, and I've seen some other people talk about this, the percentage of new visits actually decreased over time. So I've seen a few people kind of say this lately. So for us, it started pretty in line with Meta. And I'd say like October, early November, our like 1 day click ROAS on like all, which is like the thing we look at first was better than Meta. And then when we looked at like 1 day click on for new, it was probably like similar. So like more efficient on total, same efficiency on new, which means less percentage of new. And over time, we just saw that new visitor rate, new customer rate go down. So I had a feeling that it would be, plus with the data Jeremiah shared, I had a feeling it would be incremental for us, but not as incremental on new customers as we would like. And that's what we're finding. So it was incremental on both, like a 3% lift on new customers, like a 4 or 5% lift on total. So overall, great. A number where it is still profitable. I think it was like a $40-something cost per incremental order. On a $100 AOV, $100+ AOV, like that's great. But new customer, cost per incremental new customers is above 100, well above. So it was not nearly as incremental as we want, not nearly as efficient as we would want. So ultimately for us, like it's hard to justify it. And this is, I don't know if you guys ever do this where you get a question that you can't really answer like the way you want it and you think you know it, and it's kind of frustrating. But somebody asks, they're like, well, it's still incremental. You're still producing contribution margin. Like, why do you care if it's new or not? I'm curious how you guys would answer that one, but that's what we're finding. So I'd say a little bit bummed. We probably were spending up to 40K like this past weekend on it. And I don't really have the confidence or want to spend that much to reacquire or get purchases from repeat customers. I would rather, put that money into more of a new customer acquisition play. But that's what we're finding so far.
Mm. So you're saying the cost per incremental first time order is still profitable, but comparatively not as efficient as some other channels that you ran holdouts on in terms of the cost per first order, the cost per incremental first order?
We're losing money on new customers. It's incremental, okay. But it's incremental where it's like $150 cost per incremental. So we're probably never getting paid back at that. I mean, we probably have $150 lifetime revenue over the first year. So with COGS and fulfillment, like we're probably not getting paid back on that. So that's not within our acquisition targets. We are seeing a total cost. I'm going to pull up a total cost per incremental that is profitable, but we don't normally think about spending media spend and significant media spend for repeat customer revenue.
Right.
That kind of breaks the model. I just am having a hard time kind of explaining to people why. But I would rather put that money into acquisition.
I mean, there's more cost-effective ways, right? Like, I mean, for us, we think about it. We love driving repeat orders through owned media, through organic social. I mean, we've already paid. There's not no cost to, sending those. I mean, texts and emails cost money to send out, but it's certainly more. It's marginally more cost-effective than spending dollars on a loyalty audience. Probably. At least that's how we
I think it just breaks your model. Like if you have an LTV to CAC model and you're accounting for things, you have to account for then that reacquisition spend in your LTV model. And that may, significantly impact things because then you're making less contribution margin on these repeat orders. And so maybe that changes what you can spend to acquire a customer or vice versa.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tricky. This isn't AppLovin specific at this point. It is, how do you think about the cost of reactivating a customer? I agree with Connor that it feels weird to spend money to reactivate a customer because you think there would be more cost-effective ways, like whether that's email or SMS or direct mail or something else. We don't in-house, but the flip side is in-house we don't filter or we don't segment new and returning orders because if it's incremental, I'm like, I don't really care. Like we're proving out that these orders would not have happened otherwise. We also don't really have. We are built on acquiring customers anyway, so it's not that big of a difference. So that's the other side where it's like if it is incremental, the best way that you could think about it, the best way to reacquire a customer tomorrow is AppLovin reactivating. The best way to drive an incremental order tomorrow could be AppLovin reactivating a customer. Long term, it seems like a silly way to grow your LTV. You're going to spend a bunch of money on a mobile ad network, but like in the very short term, you're proving out that it's incremental. I would let it rip, but
I guess like a lot of the house tests will look directionally, meaning like what is our cost per incremental on Meta versus YouTube versus TV at different spend levels? Where's my next dollar best spent? I would have to then test all of these options on repeat customers. Is direct because I can probably get a repeat purchase. I know I can an incremental repeat purchase on direct mail for better than $45, or for SMS or for email for better than $45. So I think directionally there's probably better. So maybe not the most efficient use of our spend. But I agree with you. It also depends on what your definition of repeat is. Like maybe we're reacquiring customers that purchased over 180 days ago, and I'm more okay with that than or was this a completely net new customer? Was this somebody who just purchased within 30 days? Like I don't want to pay $45 on that.
100%. So that was the other thing I was going to say is like at some point you probably just get big enough and you have millions of customers who are many years old at this point and they just won't reactivate themselves. They're just not necessarily coming back. We've faced a little bit of that this year launching travel where it was like, I mean, we thought of it as an issue because I don't like this as the strategy, but running exclusions on Meta, like the full thing, running travel ads on Meta would still drive back returning customer revenue that we could see in Northbeam. Now, I don't think those people are necessarily going to convert. I don't mean to say that's not incremental, I'm not saying that those orders would have happened otherwise. I don't think those people are engaging with our email and SMS in the same way. But it's not something that excites me because again, it's definitely not the most effective way for us to reactivate those people.
That's a really good point though. I think a lot of times it depends what your goals are, but I think people equate incremental to new customers. You can still be incremental on repeat customers. And this has shown that we are.
I also think people sometimes equate incremental to like profitable, which what you're showing right now is you can drive incremental orders that would not have happened otherwise. That doesn't mean it's done profitably. And I think that's a good call out, Cody, that like, and we do the same thing. Like we're absolutely looking at house data for like net profitable acquisitions, right? Like taking our first order AOV, subtracting out our cost data and that cost per incremental order or cost per incremental acquisition. But then we're also doing the same thing as you, like where we're going and saying, all right, what's the CPIA on channel A versus B versus C versus D, which also has its own set of complications, and then deciding like, how do we scale up because of that? But I think, I don't know, that's an interesting, what I've seen kind of almost used like incorrectly in like replacement for one another is like, oh, it's incremental, like in people meaning it's profitable. It's like, well, is it both? Is it incremental and is it, profitable? They're two very separate things, which is, I'm glad you called that out, Cody, because it can be incremental and unprofitable, or ideally incremental and profitable.
No, you're right about that.
That's the dream.
Yeah, we've had very few tests that are not incremental. Like I think only Google brand search was not incremental. Yeah. We have a lot of incremental stuff, and not all of it would be good media spend. If our goal was just new customer acquisition, AppLovin would be a bad idea in its current state. We've had, YouTube reach. I think we had an incremental result on that, but it was like a $260 cost per incremental. Like that's never going to pay back in a 10-year lifetime. So yeah, agree with you there.
Cody, I'm assuming you guys have like a post-treatment window, because I'd also say you just got you ran it through the weekend or something. You got the results back today. I mean, you're just about to have a massive week. I could really see a lot of people prospected from AppLovin converting over BFCM.
Yeah. 2-week post-treatment window. And then I think
so we'll have to follow up
then. And then I think that's a good point. Like, so one of the things with incrementality testing is you can't generalize or infer. Like I think a lot of times people will run a test and they're like, this channel is incremental or this channel is not. But like, if you run the same exact test at a different time of the year, right? A channel and the customers on that channel might perform very differently in December and January as they do now. And it could go for the other way. Like you also might get a really great result and then in a peak period and you test it later and it might not make sense. So especially anything that you're not entirely sure of, I think sometimes it's worthwhile testing multiple times. Let me know if you guys know about this. I think Connor, you have some data, but there are no customer exclusions on AppLovin currently. I think, and I've told AppLovin, I tweeted about this, like this will be the biggest piece of feedback. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing. And really just like the only negative is that there are none. And so people are seeing, I want to hear what you guys are seeing, but lower percentage of new visits. And by the way, this tracks very similar to what we're seeing in Northbeam. So I'm not entirely surprised because our percent of new visits is lower than what we're seeing on Meta. It's sub 50%, and that's not great. And that actually tracks very similarly with what we're seeing with the house test. What's your guys kind of like new visits or new percentage rate look like in Northbeam?
Where are we sitting now? We are at, new visit rate is at, so new customer percentage is at 81%. So it is for us mainly first time orders, which, we're happy to see. I am interested to like run that holdout and
what's the percent?
81 net new customer percentage.
How does that compare if you can share it to like another similar channel?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty in like Facebook's even higher. It's actually lower than Facebook. It's lower than YouTube. It's lower than TikTok. Like all of our paid media channels are very heavy acquisition. Luckily, we're happy about that because we have a similar business to Ridge where like we have to be first order profitable. So it's lower than that, but it's still pretty high, right? Like if it was at 50%, I'd be a little more worried. The new visit rate is lower. It's at 55%, which again is like a little bit lower than some of our other like top performing channels, but not that far off. It's not like like if it was like 30-40%, that'd be much lower. So honestly, that those are bullish signals for me. I'm looking forward to like also seeing what Prescient says about its like MMM reported ROAS and comparing that to the MTA and like just like layering these different data points on top of one another. The one thing I would add, Cody, that I think would be really insightful, and there's probably some actionable things from it, is understanding like which games your customers are coming from. I think there's probably some sort of, I don't know what it is exactly, but some sort of like follow up if you know that all of your people are coming from like Farmland, Candy Crush, and like, I don't know, like there's like 4 games that's driving 85% of your revenue. I don't know exactly what you would do with that, but I feel like there's some like deeper digging to do to see like what other spaces those people are spending their time in. I'm not sure, but I would love to see that information, which I don't think anyone is getting right now.
Connor, how about you? I know you guys just launched a few weeks ago. How is that looking, the new versus repeat split on AppLovin for you guys?
Yeah, similar to Connor, we're at 90% plus new customer revenue. That's all of our channels.
Great.
Which again is just, we don't have a lot of people buying a second or third wallet. Like that is I think that's a category thing. Yeah, 92% plus, and that's basically the same across all channels. We do see low percent new visits, so I don't know exactly what to make of that. We're scaling into it this week. We're seeing great CPCs, we're seeing great ROAS, we're seeing great lift on that ROAS. That's another thing we're looking at. Typically, if you just drive more traffic, you'll see a larger delta between 1 day and 30 day, and then we set our that helps us set our 1 day targets. So again, we're seeing it work currently. We'll see how it pans out over the longer term.
And I wonder with these differences to our business, is if this is one of those things where you're going to get a different read, a different incrementality read, not because the channel is any different, but because the business is different. And there's a chance maybe AppLovin is great for you guys because you don't exactly have that signal. Like again, I'm speaking out of my ass here. Right. I don't know anything about modeling, but like AppLovin is going after more repeat customers because that's the signal that it has based on us, and they can't exclude new. But if you guys don't necessarily have that repeat base and that signal, then it's going after more of a new thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what when literally all of our channels are driving 92, 93% plus new customer revenue, it's because they're, I mean, to a certain degree, we like set up campaigns across channels to drive that. But at the same time, AppLovin with no exclusions is still 90% plus. That's on like $250,000 in spend. I mean, there's nobody to acquire but new customers. That's the beauty of the Ridge business.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, I just really wish people were like 40 minutes in will like get this part, because I think people are just going to take the headline and be like, AppLovin doesn't work or AppLovin works.
It's I mean, it's so dependent, right? Like yours is a very nuanced answer in that it is, you are driving very profitable incremental orders. They just happen to be a lot of returning customers, which is, I think, reasonable to be skeptical of. Olivia from House on Twitter has been sharing like a number of results. So it's like clearly like the takeaway should not be, we're going to take Cody's results as gospel, right? Like the point is you can validate it on your own. It's very different by business. And we're acknowledging that here, as well as these additional tests that the House team is publishing. So yeah, tricky to make sense of, but more than anything, I think it's interesting to see collectively us all work through this problem together at once. I think that's a really cool, I'm thinking about that now, and I guess you could probably say the same about TikTok a couple years ago, but there's been very few instances where we've seen like millions of dollars pour into a platform and everybody's trying to make sense of it at once while we're going into, you know, the busiest shopping time of the year.
Have you guys seen, I guess not, because it's not self-serve yet, but as soon as they go self-serve, we're about to start seeing some AppLovin agencies pop up.
Yeah. Well, that was the other thing, like, there's not a lot to do in the platform, right? Like it's they're basically managing all of it. You give them creative, they've got like the post ad experience, but there's not really like tips to have right now.
No, there's not much you can do. Test creative, I guess. Give them new creative to do.
It'll be fun to see if anything comes out as like a unique style of creative that works specifically for AppLovin. I don't know what that would be, but like, I don't, like maybe like positioning your product within like a more like gamey type experience. I don't know. Who knows?
Well, dude, you know, you were talking about like, I mean, there's a bunch of like really addictive like restaurant games where people are like cooking up the burgers and like serving their customers. Like you could make that a cool little HexCloud ad.
That'd be so cool. Dang, I got to do some research about what like the top food games are right now. That's a really good idea. That's going into my ClickUp to-do list for sure.
Yeah.
I like that. Connor, do you mind sharing, if you can, what your net new visit rate is?
Oh yeah. So that is really low. Like I said, 93%. percent new visits is like, at first it was in the 60s. And then when I looked at it over the weekend, it was in the 50s, which is super weird for us. I mean, we drive 80% plus from Meta. Like we think of 50% typically is like, it's just retargeting. So yeah, so we're seeing some odd kind of changes over time as it relates to that.
Mm-hmm. And then one other question I'm curious about, because this whole like black box thing is like, I don't know if that should make me weary or if that's simply just because they're a like is it self-serve for all the apps that have been advertising in there? Like, is it still self-serve for them? Is it only self-serve for e-com brands because it's a different like conversion objective where other like, I don't know. I don't remember when Facebook first started like allowing advertisers to participate, but was that also a managed service from the jump? Like I'm trying to like go back in time and remember if some of these other ad channels were initially a managed service, and then as they just got more developed, they built out the self-serve side of it. Like, do you guys have any thoughts or feelings or like historical knowledge on that?
What I can say, I don't know if you're expressing skepticism. I'm not skeptical of it at all. Like, I think there's a handful of examples. We were on Live Intent for a while, and Live Intent was also like a big ad network that was like quote unquote managed service, which basically just meant like they weren't doing anything sophisticated back there. They just didn't have the portal that you could do it yourself. Right. So we would give them budgets. We would give them creative. I think they'd do like some light targeting, but like it really wouldn't do much. Frankly, I think that's often a sign that you were early enough that there's like some opportunity to take advantage of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I lean more that way too. Cody, what do you think?
Do you guys know why they can't have customer exclusions? I guess they don't get emails. Like when somebody signs up for Facebook, they give an email, but when you're gaming, you're just downloading it, but you're not giving an email. Is that why?
Yeah, honestly, I have no idea.
But can't they get that through like if you download a game, you got to be logged into your Apple account, right? Or your Android account, which has an email associated with it. So I feel like, but maybe that's like one step too removed. Like with Facebook, It's like you're logging into Facebook, the same channel you're advertising in. With AppLovin, you wouldn't be doing that. You'd be logged into Apple. You would then download the app from the iOS store. So maybe there's no like that bridge is not like crossable, maybe.
Yeah, I would assume. I mean, they've been running ads for a really long time. Before, I don't know what it's at today, but like even before people started talking about it, AppLovin was a $40 billion company. So I think they'd have figured it out, and I'm sure there's just like what they say is they just don't have access to all that much data. I mean, if you sign up for, I was playing Fruit Smash with my wife a couple weeks ago, which is a very addicting game, and yeah, you're not creating a profile. You're not giving them any information. I mean, it is just, and it's on Apple, it's on iOS. So it's like the privacy phone manufacturer. I'm like, they don't know anything about me other than I'm not very good at Fruit Smash.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I was just looking at their stock right now. I mean, in the last month, they're up 98%. I started a conversation at dinner last night. I was like, guys, tell me if this is insider trading or not. And like, I got everybody's attention. Like, they're like, what did you do? I don't have any stock. I haven't bought any. But I was like, hey, I know some of these house test results that, haven't been public yet. Like, if I did know that and bought the stock, would it be? And they're like, no, like it's from a third party. It's totally fine. It would be like if you knew like proprietary information about the financial performance of the company. So if you're listening here and we're talking bullshit about AppLovin and you want to buy it, not financial advice. I think that's fair to do. But yeah, I don't know. I think if there's a way, my prediction and my thought would be I'm like a 6 out of 10. I think for the majority of brands, which is probably 60% of brands, I think it's going to be a good channel. I think it's going to be a good 10% of spend channel, which would be great. Like most brands, if they can get that, that's huge. I think certain brands it'll do better than others based on this new customer thing, just based on the early data that I've seen. And if they can figure that out, then I'm an 8 out of 10. If they can figure that out somehow, I'd be super bullish on it. But some brands don't care. Some brands are like you guys, and they're just a new customer business, so they're going to deliver new anyways. And then there are brands, especially I think as you get larger, they just care about incremental revenue. Totally. It's not going to be new versus returning.
Dude, a lot of brands don't even care about incremental revenue, right? Like at some point, it's like, yeah, you just get the Johnson & Johnson money. or whatever, right? And they've got billions to spend.
Yeah, but I think AppLovin's like completely performance. Like I think the only thing you can do is optimize for conversions. Like I don't think you can buy an awareness campaign.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah,
that's pretty badass to go right to purchase conversions. Like I love that.
An ad network after my own heart.
Yep.
No reach campaigns. Nobody. Yeah. Everyone knows ad comments are super important for social proof, but they're a mess to handle. Spam, trolls, customer questions, good reviews. At Ridge, we had 4 full-time people to moderate all of this, which was expensive but necessary. One of the reasons we moved to RichPanel is we knew they'd be launching new AI tools, and they just launched their AI social media manager that handles all of our ad comments. It's built right into RichPanel, our help desk software, which no other help desk has anything like. In the first 2 months, AI handled 11,000 comments, saved us 760 hours of work. It's like 4 months of one person's time. And the best part is it didn't cost us anything else. It came with our regular subscription. If you want to learn more about RichPanel, you can join one of their weekly migration webinars. It's 40 minutes. They show you the platform, how to switch from your current system, and how much money you can save. It's great for CX teams to evaluate RichPanel and see if it's a fit for your business. If you want to add social media superpowers while becoming more efficient, go to richpanel.com. Book a spot for their weekly migration webinar and get your CX team a spot too.
Saw Sean tweeted that you guys are doing some new TV campaigns with none other than Marquez.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. With the shoot, the media plan, like everything. We want to know everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, so we could talk about it. And I want to hear from Connor as well, because the plan is in nascent stages is what I would say. I mean, I went out to New York in October, end of October. So we could shoot content. We got a bunch of stuff done. We shot content for our travel launch. We launched a new backpack and a carry-on with him yesterday. So that will have been out for a while. We got content there. And then we wanted like higher quality, horizontal to hit more streaming networks. And this is really a part of our plan going into 2025 is twofold. One, I want to take our kind of business as usual and just like move further up funnel. I think both of you guys are great examples of brands moving into Cody, you broke it down a couple months ago, but like you're on streaming, you're on linear, you're on YouTube. Like I think we can really crack that. And obviously channel diversification is like really key for growing the wallet business from here. So we want to do that already. And then 2, we want to be appealing to new people. And we signed the Marquez deal earlier this year for that reason. How are we hitting a new demo and appealing to someone who we might not otherwise have been appealing to? And then now we're taking that onto TV, which Sean's tweet was about how it's kind of ironic that Marquez became a YouTuber, a very meritocratic platform, creates content for 14 years, never has to get sign off from, a TV network or something like that. And now we're going to be, putting his face on linear television. So I think that will be cool. I think the things that are still kind of TBD is, one, how will Marquez resonate on linear TV? Like, I think that will be which I say the plan is in nascent stages because we have a lot to learn, right? Like, how are we testing into new networks? How are we testing into new demos? I've talked about this before.
You have concepts of a plan.
We have concepts of a plan. Yeah, literally. Our linear TV strategy right now is awesome. We crush Motor Trends. We crush Fishing Network. We crush American Heroes. We crush the History Channel, things like that. It's just male dense, C-tier, affordable networks that just like have reliably worked now. I don't think we're going to put Marquez on those channels and it just works. So we're going to have to test into a whole new type of channel strategy. But that's where the upside is, where if all of a sudden we can crack linear streaming, YouTube by appealing to new demos with our flagship partnership, we want to do that. And this content was really just our first foray into that. In our deal, we get multiple production days a year, and I think we're going to be dedicating at least probably 40% of our time to just creating really high quality content for these more like brand awareness channels.
You guys tweeted about looking for like a production partner for something a while back. Did you end up hiring somebody you found through Twitter for all this stuff?
We did.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, we talked to a lot of people. It kind of came through Sean's like open call. They'd also worked with some friends of ours as well. So they were like referred to some degree. But yeah, cool. New York agency. That's another thing is it's got to be local for Marquez. We have a lot of partners that we like in the LA area, but had to source some new people. So It went well. I mean, we've got a number of days next year. We're looking for new partners. So if you do awesome video content, this is a CTA to DM me on Twitter. We're always looking.
And is that going to be, sorry if I missed this, I don't think I did, but you said like TV creative, is that specifically linear? And then are you going to be rolling this out across other channels? Like how are you going to like cut and mix this to get legs across everywhere?
Yeah. So we're going to start with linear. That's what we're running on now. We're just going to start working it in, see how it works. And we're going to kind of chip away at identifying the channels and targeting that this will work with. And then the plan is, that's what the general plan is for us to expand into more of those channels going into 2025. I think, and I hope Marquez can be a big piece of that. We're not putting all of our eggs in that basket. We also got, I said this was many months ago, but I said a hack that we had done was I'd looked up spec ads on YouTube. There are these like kind of creators that are producing ads just for fun and then posting them on YouTube called spec ads. And you can find some amazing people who will do fantastic work very affordably. They're the team, one of those people that I found whose name I'm not giving away because I like them too much. But they also produce content, not Marquez dependent, that I also think can help us kind of scale into those other channels. So we've got a lot of iron in the fire as it comes to channel diversification, because that type of content is just something we haven't built a flywheel around. So whether it's new partners in New York or new creators off a YouTube spec ad, that's what the strategy is so far.
How are you going to measure it?
Right now, the way that we measure TV is really we use Tatari. I like some of their in-platform reporting. I think you can get a lot of signal out of it. The way they measure users like minute to minute, I think is actually super valid. So we'll use that. We'll use post-purchase surveys. And then we have vanity URLs and QR codes and things like that in the TV ad. So we are able to track some amount of clicks. So those have been the points that we triangulate with. And that'll be the plan for the short term. What we're definitely not doing is we're not like launching a 7-figure TV budget with this new ad. Like we're rolling it out over the next couple of days. We've been on linear for like a month now. We'll see how it goes to the end of the year, with the plan being like, we'll hopefully really scale it up in 2025. But I want to turn it around for you, Connor, because planning for this Marquez shoot, I watched the Hexclad ad. Like I say the Hexclad ad, the one that starts with the renders and then it cuts to, cook the perfect ribeye or whatever. And then it's Gordon. And you guys beautifully hit the value props of the brand. I think it's really, really well done. How has your TV strategy shaped up over the course of the year?
It's really just become more scale. We actually haven't produced, well, I take that back. We actually have produced some new creative. It just hasn't gone live yet. So we're in a similar boat with you guys where we're about to actually launch for the first time ever, differentiated creative, which I'm very excited about. I'm very excited to get intra-channel reporting, UTM data, so we can get like a comparative analytics look on the actual creative. Will be really interesting. But for us, it's mainly been, all right, we validated this working for all the ways that you just mentioned. So we, post-purchase survey look great. In-platform look great. We'll even do some like hour-over-hour analysis on Shopify when we did these like one-off TV buys. Our MMM likes it a lot. It doesn't pull into Prescient yet, but like we also use Northbeam's MMM and they really like linear TV. So we've just, it's overall just taken a larger chunk of our budget. And then we also signed the Fox deal, which this is all public knowledge. Like part of that Fox deal was a ton of media value over the course of 3 years. So we've really cranked up our budget when you consider that component of it. So we kind of look at our linear TV as like, we kind of delineate, like there's the Fox deal, and then there is the kind of everything else that we do on linear TV outside of Fox. So yeah, I mean, for us, it's just been like tracking the signals and scaling up. We've really used that same TV creative for really ever since we launched it in like the back end of 2022. So I think where we're now headed is what you're starting to think about, I think, which is just like diversity of creative, right? Let's get more assets in the mix that should lift the whole channel up. We'll get insights into like which assets are working best. We did a seasonal spot last year for holidays, which is now in market again for the second year with, it's like a Gordon is like making Santa Claus a beef Wellington. So that's mainly it, right? Is like more creative. It's really no different than Facebook, right? It's like scale creative horizontally. That should allow you to spend more. Over time, you should be able to spend more. I do want to run a holdout on it at some point. We have not done that yet, but I would love to get that set up. And that's really it, right? Is like more spend, more creative, and just like continued validation with more layers of like measurement, basically.
Mm-hmm. You're saying end of 2022, you guys launched like that hero piece of creative that I described. That's basically where all media spend has gone. That's really what I want to find. Like, I actually don't want to go. We're forced to diversify creative right now. And then what I would love to do is find that 15-second ad, that 30-second ad that we can just scale. Because I think that's probably, you can't do that on Facebook right now. I think it's really hard to get like one ad that you can spend $3 million on. But on TV, it's just a little different.
Yeah. Our team internally and externally just nailed that first piece of creative, which has really allowed us to scale. Like the value prop came through in a like not too direct response of a way, but just enough to pique interest. The Gordon social proof really came through, and like I feel like just nailed the marriage of those two things. So we kind of got lucky, I feel like, in many ways with that first TVC. I'm excited to see how we can diversify, but it's going to be hard to, I do think we have the team to do it, but I think it'll be hard to kind of top that one. Cause I think we used two different agencies. We had one agency that like wrote the ad, and then we had another production company. So it was like a pretty big involved. And then we also had our internal team like giving a lot of feedback along the way. So like very involved process. So yeah, we'll see if we can kind of recreate that magic a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. So we've been live on TV for 11 months exactly. We just did our second shoot. So we did a one-day shoot last year. I think we got 8 concepts out of it, all Bobby, all Miracle Bomb. So talking about it, we probably don't quote me exactly, we're probably still running like 4 or 5 of the concepts, just the better performers. We've iterated once, just did a little bit of a creative style. But there's really no creative fatigue, like at least from what I'm hearing from our team and our TV buyer we work with. Like we don't need to, refresh them yet. And it's been a year and pretty significant spend on them. So like, that's awesome. That's, again, it takes a big shoot to get this stuff going, but it's awesome. So we just did a second one just for new products. We have a big, hero product launch in April. So we did that. And then for our foundation that we don't currently have ads on, but it's our top meta spend right now. So it's just to kind of get some incremental new creatives and hopefully new spend. But yeah, I mean, I love that we don't have to refresh these things every month, because that wouldn't be sustainable, because obviously a TV production is a lot bigger.
Yeah. And what's your measurement stat, Cody? I think, that's one of my favorite questions to ask in the context of linear, because I think linear can be often one of the more challenging ones to measure, because it's not a click-based channel. Somewhat similar to YouTube in that sense. So what's your measurement stack looking like?
When we launched mostly post-purchase, I love that like trend report where you can see and you can kind of calculate how did you hear about us ROAS. So that was it, CPA, and then looking at that trend line as we increase spend. Looking at Tatari, definitely. I am skeptical of theirs, and just my general philosophy is like never trust anybody that has a financial incentive to make performance look good. But I think directionally it's really helpful. It might not be the source of truth, but directionally, especially when comparing across creatives and networks, that's very helpful. As I'm further removed, like I don't go in there much anymore, but I do think that there's a lot of value in that. And then MMM. So we buy our linear through Tatari. So we're able to get linear and CTV in their impression. And so that's been really helpful. And then we were able to run a holdout on CTV. It's technically possible in linear, but you pay such a premium on CPMs that it's just not worthwhile. We still had to pay a premium on CTV, but it was less so. So that's the majority of it is, MMM's kind of the main one now, but looking at all of those factors, a lot of triangulation going on over there.
Yeah. So with Tatari, their measurement's kind of funny. They measure minute to minute traffic on your site, and then they know when their ad spots go live, and then they're measuring the spike in traffic. So like we did, I forget what it was, but we do like Yellowstone all the time. I've joked our strategy is typically just buy as much Yellowstone ad inventory as possible. But like you'll see a Yellowstone ad go live and you'll see the spike, and it's not a ton of people, but it's like clearly it's like 100 people above the baseline. And it's like, okay, we think we drove 100 people. They're able to, I forget the exact details, observe some amount of conversions, and then they apply that conversion rate across the lift-in people. Then the part that I don't like, which we like account for, is they say for every one person we drove, we'll drive 1.3 more people in the future. So then they They extrapolate that out. And for some brands, I'm sure that's super valid. For us, it's probably true as well. But we like remove all of that, and we're just looking at what is our CPA essentially on that first spike of traffic. And I think that's like, I think there's validity in how that's measured, and it's a solid data point. And it's like it's also very conservative. So that, along with post-purchase with some Northbeam data, is our stack. But just, I wanted to talk through some of that, because I think that's one of the funnier ones. Just like, 1.3 more people, take that out. And like, then I'll look at that number.
That was my challenge. Yeah. It was like, they were just like forecasting conversions that didn't even happen yet and calling it a CPA.
Yeah. I would like to see a white paper of sorts. I think that would actually like be a really good idea for them, because I don't think I've ever heard a marketer hear that multiplier and be like, wait, what? Why? It would be really probably helpful if they had some sort of white paper to like, or like data, I don't know, whatever. We did this for like 50 brands, and like the average, like in some way they validated it. Who knows? It would be,
right.
It would go a long way
Well,
with most marketers
they say
to understand that.
You can engage with the data science team, and then they'll find a lift specific to your brand, so it can get more personalized over time. There's
Chitari will, the one that you buy TV ads through, will find a lift if you ask them to do it, and then that lift will tell you that you should spend more money with them.
Hey, look, I get it.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see them. Hopefully I'm in the target market for them. I would imagine those will be like, any idea what networks you'll be testing on?
We have a plan. I don't know any networks off the top of my head, but I mean, honestly, I don't watch a lot of linear TV. I think we'll hit a lot more like news channels, things like that. We go for a younger demo, as you can imagine. American Heroes, History Network, Fish Network, older crowd over there. So we'll hit a younger, more, tech adjacent demo, I think. And I think it'll be cool. So, and seeing, there's been two cool things. One, I think seeing Marquez on TV is interesting. That's what Sean called that in the tweet. And then a couple of weeks ago, we launched the MKBHD fixtures in Best Buy, which is another cool, like somewhat ironic thing, that you've got this like very, self-made creator from this meritocratic platform now like in traditional retail, like the biggest traditional tech retailer is a really cool thing. So that's more of just kind of a nerdy perspective on it, but it's been exciting to see kind of both those come to life.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited to follow up with you in like a month and see what you're seeing on the back end. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Marketing Operators. We had a really fun one today. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors, Motion, Prescient, and Rich Panel. If you're enjoying the show, please like, subscribe, and share.